Welcome to this how to play video of Mothership Tabletop Combat. Theme-wise, players are representing different colonies. There was a big disagreement and that led for these colonies to flee from their sector and go and explore the deeper space. So you're not alone, several colonies have done the same, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to harvest the resources of the new discovered areas, making it easier to have a new start for your own team and your own species. The game plays from 2 to 6 players, but you can also have different ways of playing the game, like team plays, team versus team, and also there are rules for solo playing within the game. Each player starts the game with one technology tree, one control panel, the one with the various colorful discs, the blue and the red, several spaceships that we're going to go into detail later on, 15 blue energy counters that represent the energy of your mothership at the upper 3 part of your control panel. Also you get red hull points, which represent hull points for your mothership and hull points for your space colony ship. You get 3 grey tech counters. When you follow the different technology, you just go through the different tiers and select how your technology progresses and which traits you're going after in order to differentiate yourself from the opponents. Also you get several capture markers which represent possession. When one planet falls under your control, simply they look like that. They're plastic and durable. And when you capture a planet, for example, what you do is you just click your color of your capture marker at the bottom of the stand, so it looks like your color and it is easily spotted on the game board that it belongs to you from this section and this point onwards. 2 action cards, it's your starting hand for the game. And let's have a closer look for the spaceship. Each player starts with the same armada, the same spaceship. This consists of your main space colony ship, which is this one, and this is stationary, it doesn't move. Then you get 3 fighters, which are the ones with this orientation, 1, 2, 3. So you also get 2 bombers, 1, 2, and finally you get the star of the day, which is your mothership, which looks like that. And the idea is that even though the rest of the ship have specific statistics that can be buffed throughout technology, your mothership has a control panel assigned to it, which makes it much more flexible and much more versatile within your play. Another nice feature of the game is the board setup. The game comes with some predefined and pre-suggested board layouts, which are balanced and well checked, but also you can find a lot of board setups and map setups online, and you can freely experiment and try your own. What is making the board very versatile are these asteroid fields. You can see, you can move them and you can position them in specific ways, and since they have quite a few dynamic rules that they increase the risk when you fly through them, so you can get your ship damaged. That makes a really different board layout each time. But in general the same rules apply. You can see the spaceship of the players, the asteroid fields, which are these, and the free planets for the moment. They will not be free when they get captured by players. You're going to position, as we showed earlier, the capture markers. And that's about it. The whole differentiation comes from the asteroid fields and the way you manipulate them in the board. So they make a different layout, and different tactics are of course needed for this specific map. So what is the goal in this game? The goal is to keep your colony station and at least one ship alive. Also, you want to destroy your opponent's colony station or wipe all their ships out. So essentially you're the last standing player in the game so that you can win. Just to quickly show you how your turn goes, initially you start managing your mothership energy, and then each ship moves measured in spaces. And of course attacks by rolling die in that order. You have 3 different ships. How far each ship can move and how powerful they are, it is written on your control panel, and your colony station is classed as not as a ship but as a stationary colony ship. That means it does not attack, but it's part of your armada. When you finish moving and attacking, you collect resources in order to progress down the road on the technology tree. We already mentioned the control panel. Let's investigate further. The top 4 rows are only for the mothership, your most powerful and most versatile flexible unit. What they represent are, starting from the top, the engines for the first row, the weapon systems, the shields, the third blue row, the blue markers, and then the hull points, the hit points. All these 4 rows are for your mothership. On the bottom left you can see the hull points for your space colony, and some statistics on the right for your fighters, how long they can move and which die they attack. For example, the basic movement of a fighter is 4, engine of 4, and attack of they roll a 1d6. Also, they cannot damage hull points, meaning red markers on other motherships, etc. But they can fight against fighter bombs, shields and planets. In addition, the bomber, let me also show you here so you can see, this is a fighter and this is a bomber. In addition, the bomber can damage hull points as opposed to the fighter, so it's more heavy, as you can imagine from the title, and it can also damage shields and planets, but it cannot attack other fighters and it cannot attack other bombers. They roll 1d8, so it's more powerful, and they have only 3 spaces in their engine movement. That means they move shorter than the fighters. So a few more things to mention besides the statistics of your smaller ships, which are the fighters and the bombers, are the hull points for the space colony station. Your space colony station, as we said, does not move. It stands still, and it's a matter of protecting it so that you can be able to win the game. If it's blown up, then you automatically lose. Your opponents will try to damage the hull points of your space colony station. This goes in increments of 4. This is 4 hit points, another 4, another 4, and another 4, as opposed to the mothership that has only single hull points. So if you take single units of damage, you will decrease. But here you need to take at least 4 to remove the first. And if you take, for example, immediately 5 hit points, you only remove the first, you don't go to the second, you need to get another 4. The really innovative thing of the mothership is the control panel, and as this stands in terms of flexibility for the main star of the game, which is the mothership. So what it does is, before you move your mothership, you can arrange how you want your energy, divert energy from, say, shields to engines, so you can move further down, because we're going to go into details, but each space represents how further down the road you can move in hexes. Or if you're in a tough situation, you can decide to boost your shields really high, because you know you're in cornered and your opponents are going to try to, for this round, and hit you really hard. So what you do is you decide how you want to lock your energy. You play your turn with this energy. It is locked within till all the other players get a chance to play as well, and you can again, when you turn on the next round, rearrange it however you like. As we mentioned earlier, movement comes into counting hexes. The amount of spaces your ships can move in one turn are displayed on your control panel, whether these are the small fighters and bombers. For example, bombers can move up to 3, fighters can move up to 4, and your mothership can move as you have predefined in your control panel. Say I had 5 spaces, 5 blue markers, that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 3 legit movements, for example. In addition, ships can be moved through your own ships, but cannot occupy the same hex. They cannot be moved through planets, colony stations, or enemy spaceships. Just to get you a quick idea of how combat works, we're going to go into details later on. In order to attack, you need to be adjacent to your ship you want to destroy and declare a dogfight. Each ship will roll the corresponding dice type, and then each player adds any buffs to the rolls from their technology tree or action cards they might have. Buff means a thing that makes your die roll higher, so adding value mainly. The highest roll wins and the losing ship takes damage. If you tie, no ship takes damage, and the losing ship also takes a total of the winning roll as a damage, meaning that this is the main way how you destroy your opponent's spaceship. So for example, we have here a bomber that rolls without any traits a natural d8, and here we have all the armada, but let's focus on one fighter. So if the fighter wants to attack the bomber, it would move 1, 2, 3. It can move up to 4, but the 3 is enough because now it's positioned adjacent to the bomber. And then if the player would want to play action cards, they must declare it before they roll. But imagine now we have none of this, so one would roll the d6 and one would roll the d8. So that will be 1, obviously, and that will be 5. The bomber really stands out and destroys the attacking fighter, so it goes out of the game. This is a plain simple game. You really don't want to go with just the the stats on a simple die. You want to have boosts from your action card, you want to have boosts from your technology tree, but this is quickly to show you how how simple the combat is and how fast it works. Another special feature of Mothership are asteroids. If you choose to move into an asteroid field, you must win a dogfight against it. Asteroids always roll a d6, like we've seen before. And how to win against asteroids? You need to tie or roll higher. The winning ship can now move freely within the asteroid, that means the asteroid tile and connecting tiles, until you leave by moving into a non-asteroid space. So if I were to win a dogfight here against the asteroid, I want to go across, I would move 1, 2, I'm a fighter, I roll a natural d6 and I have a dogfight, say I win, and then I can proceed with my movement. What would happen if I lost against an asteroid? Your ship takes damage, and if it is your mothership, the amount rolled by the asteroid is absorbed by shields, and the rest is taken off hull points. If your fighter or bomber loses, they simply explode. We have seen this nice miniature for the planets on the transparent standees. Planets are something that the players will always gonna go after, so in order to capture a planet you need to attack it. If you roll a total of 6 or higher, the planet is yours. Technology tree and action cards buffs do not apply for planet attack rolls, and you can attack with multiple ships. The more ships you use, the higher the chance of your die roll being high enough to achieve the minimum 6 needed for the capturing of the planet. If you claim the planet, then you place a capture marker underneath it, and then you're awarded the action card from the top of a deck. In my example here, the mothership is legally placed so it can attack the spaceship, but say I also had a bomber right next to it, so they can both add their attacking die roll against the attack versus a d6 from the planet. If I win, I take the planet, it's mine, and then I just put a capturing marker, as I showed you before, under the base of the planet to indicate that this is mine now. At the end of your turn, you collect resources. You get 1 resource for your colony station, you get 1 for each planet you control, and you also get resources for destroying enemy ships during your turn. This is called looting, or during another player's turn if you're defending. 1 of each, you get 1 additional resource if you destroyed a fighter or a bomber, and 3 resources if you destroyed a colony station or a mothership. Just make sure that you don't confuse yourself, because even though the resources may have different names and icons, the values are the same and the purpose is the same. These are the cards with the green depiction on the right. So what can you buy with all these resources you acquire? All planets start with an Antarctica fleet, but they want to differentiate without losing their advantage from their technology tree. So you can buy technology tree upgrades or action cards at any time during your turn or at the end of any of other players' turns. Action cards cost 2 resources. These look like that. And they have different abilities and different text that they describe what they do from the face-up turn side. So you can get for 2 resources any action card, which are single-use cards and they can be played during your turn. You can get technology tree upgrades. The cost is stated on each tier. If you look closely on the technology tree, you can see that you start with spending 1 for the basic entry in each of the tier, and then you go roughly to 2, 3, 4, up to 5 cost, depending on which way your marker is moving on. So don't worry in Mothership if you start losing ships at any point. You're never out of the game until you are completely destroyed. You can do pretty much a lot of damage or even turn the tide, even if you had only just a fighter or a simple bomber. How the game is summarized, keep in your mind that you can always focus on the below sentence. That means you can always move, attack, capture planets, you get resources, and then you buy upgrades. Simple stuff. I just wanted here to show you some first images from the rulebook, what you're going to expect from different board setups. You can have a lot of examples and you can have a lot of ideal pre-tested, balanced map board layouts for a good game, and you can also get, as I said before, a lot of them online, but you can see how easily the map is differentiated just with the positioning of the asteroids, and that's a really good variability for and an additional value for the game. Some of the basic board layouts, as you can see, start with a planet within easy reach of each player, so they can start attacking it and getting control over the planet, meaning additional resources, but there is also several other planets that are out of the way and people need to fight for them, and it's a focus point for dogfights and for a huge battle once against each other. So the rules are very simple, more or less is what I already discussed. It's an easy game to get into with only a few details that you can already start learning along the way, so you can start playing with already what I taught you. But just to go through some minor details for each of the sections I described so that you are aware of what happens where. So during your turn, you start with your movement. A turn is defined obviously when a player takes all the pieces in a round and they move whatever piece they want, whatever spaceship they want, till they are satisfied with what they have done, and then turn goes to the next player. In your turn, keep in mind that you're not rigid, you're flexible. This means you can move ships, attack, spend resources, manage your energy, and then again use action cards in any order you wish, or do it as much as you want, depending on what you have. What is rigid, on the other hand, is the turn of your spaceship, your single spaceship, that has two phases always. You move first and then you attack second. If you decide to attack without moving, which is possible, then you cannot move when you finish your attacking. By making use of the control panel, a player can divert energy, the blue counters that we've seen before, into any of the subsystems, the blue rows, in order to change how far your mothership can move, attack, or how damage it can absorb from opponent fights, opponent missiles. So this must be done again before the mothership is moved. The same rule applies, and the energy will be locked until your next turn. So think carefully. All actions of your turn must be declared to other players, and your turn will end when all ships have been moved and or have attacked, depending on your strategy and your plan. Then the players decide that they don't want to take any more maneuvers and they can collect resources, which is the next step. So we have seen how attack and how combat works, more or less, but keep in mind that a good strategy tip would be to try to attack with more than one ship, that it's something that gives you a benefit against your opponent. So when you're attacking with multiple ships, players may also surround as many ships with their own ships and opponent ship. They need to be adjacent, the same rules apply, so each ship needs to be adjacent to the target that they want to destroy. As long as a ship is adjacent to the target, then they can do damage. They can join the dogfight, they can roll together their attacking die, both ships roll the die corresponding to their attack power, and the rolls are combined, the sum. You must declare what you are attacking with multiple ships before you roll. This is always a rule that you need to follow, always declare before you roll. If you lose a dogfight with a single ship, you cannot then attack another ship's roll and do additional dogfight. Be very careful though, because if the combined rolls of the attacking party plus the buffs that you get from your technology tree and the action cards are still lower than the defending, then both ships will explode. In this case, both red ships will be destroyed if they lose the dogfight. But say now that the red was not the attacker, was the defender, and the yellow was attacking, we have the wingman rule for the defender. If the defending ship has one or more friendly ships adjacent, they add +1 to the player's defense roll for each ship. If the player loses a dogfight, only the defending ship takes the damage. So you want again to attack with multiple ships close to an opponent, but you also need to be moving groups of ships, because together, if you have adjacency to your ship that is being attacked, you get +1 modifiers and you're stronger. If a bomber wins against a fighter, no ship explodes, the bomber just avoids being destroyed. If a mothership loses a dogfight, it takes the attacker's total roll as a damage. The shield will absorb first all the damage, and then they will start having hits on the hull point. If any roll results in a tie, no damage is taken and there is no problem there. Obviously, if your ship attacks, it can no longer move during your turn. This is a really important rule that you need to focus and don't forget it. Asteroid fields do not change the rules of combat, and also a dogfight with asteroids does not use your attack phase, because you can always move an attack and then your ship is done for your turn. But if you attack versus an asteroid to pass through, then you can still attack another player's spaceship. We already had a close look and an understanding of how the control panel looks. The only thing I'm going to focus now and show you, because everything is nicely printed and it's pretty explanatory on the control panel, even your bomber and fighter statistics, your hull points, you can have a quick look and get a real good bearing of what your opponents do from their mothership control panel and how strong they are for this turn. But what is important is to see with the gray letters what die roll you use for your spaceship, your mothership when you're attacking, which is important. And the reason for that is, for example, you start with a D2, there you go, and then you get a D4, D6, D8, D10 up to D12. You can imagine if someone is defending with a D6 and you roll a D12, your chances, okay, I'm pretty unlucky here, but your chances to have a higher number is much higher than having equal die rolls, meaning D6 versus D6. Not to mention that you always boost your die roll with all the plus ones you get from the tech tree, and all the pluses and the buffs you get from your action cards, and all the special advantages. So even though colony stations are stationary, they're pretty important. You need to take really good care of them. Colony stations do not have attack rolls or engine power, which means they are sitting ducks. You must always protect them at all costs, because if they're destroyed, you're out of the game. So if your colony station is destroyed, all of your units are wiped instantly and you lose a game. There is a guarding rule that means that any friendly ship that can act as a guarding ship for your colony station by remaining simply in an adjacent space. That means that this is a guarding space for this colony, so if this bomber wants to attack, for example, what they need to do is they need to obviously first destroy, in some way destroy, have the spaceship, the fighter destroyed, and then you can do damage. In this case, the bombers cannot attack the fighter, but that means that you are pretty much protected, because the space colony miniature is solid and it stands still as long as there is a guarding ship next to it. That needs to be destroyed first. Just to show a few examples of the technology tree, you can have really different things going on for each player. So you can get a targeting computer, you win ties if you are the attacking ship. Red leader, you pay 2 more to get this technology, +1 to all your fighter rolls. Space walls, +3 when defending a capture on a planet that you control. Fast cap, double rolls when you're capturing planets. Embargo, prevents your cards from being stolen. Rear turrets, +1 to all your bomber rolls. Energy boost, +2 energy to your mothership control panel. This is a really good technology because you get 2 more markers and you can add them however you want on your control panel and be even more strong, be stronger than your opponents. Obviously, what you can do is up to you. You really differentiate yourself in economy, combat and support, and that can give you the grip over your opponents. So let's talk about strategy. In general, don't worry about losing ships, because if you find yourself in a position where you can't do much, you can start buying action cards and that can boost you really up. The technology tree is designed to deliberately force certain strategies on the player's choices, and it's a really good path to pursue. There are no cards in the game that repair your colony station or resurrect your mothership. Think carefully, because every movement matters. So you have only those spaceship, and it's really important what you do with them. Attacking with multiple ships might sound like a good idea, but keep in mind that your enemy's technology tree can give them also an edge, and if they defend really well, you destroy all the attacking party at once, not only the one miniature, but all of them. You get resource cards as soon as you destroy an enemy ship, and you need to spend them straight away. If you want, you can also take them and save them for later spending, it's up to you. And at some points during the game you may find the opportunity to continuously buy some action cards in order to get rid of the unwanted action cards and really get something that you need focused for your plan. You can also have team games. Mothership can be played as a team game in teams of 2 or 3. All the same rules apply. So you're playing one team versus the other. Make sure that teammates do not have turns right one after the other, so you can exchange between team members of the different teams when you're playing. Each player gets a colony station they need to protect, and you can choose that to have a team station next to each other or separated. It's up to you, but all of the rules of the game apply, but you win as a team and not as an individual. So when the game ends, as we said before, when you lose your colony station, that means when your colony station is destroyed, or when all of your units have been wiped out, then you're out of the game. If your colony station is destroyed and you still have ships left, they also explode. They can be supported without the caring of the mothership, of the space colony. So all plans that you have already under your control, they will turn to the neutral stage and you're out of the game. So you can really understand now that this is a player elimination game. It plays quickly, it matters what you do, but you can't be reckless, because if you start losing ships, then you're really weakening your position, and you need to carefully make your plans when attacking other players. So these are the basic rules. You can have also another module added to it, which is a planetary exploration. So you can, this is something that we always use in our games. You have these markers numbered 1 to 12 if I'm not mistaken, depending on the various cards. So what you do is you position them beneath the planets face down. So you take the marker, you flip it, and you hide it with your planet. So at the beginning this is neutral, but when a player captures this planet, what they do is they flip the marker and they see which number is hidden, and they go through this deck of cards to find the corresponding number. And this is most of the cases a nice artifact from the planet that you can have, +2 energy to all your Mothership control panel. That you get 2 additional blue markers. This is good traits. These artifacts are tied to the planet, meaning that if you ever lose control of this planet, this card goes to your opponent because they capture the planet that relates to this artifact. You need to spend 3 resources to do the exploration. I mean, exploring a planet in order to get the artifact costs you 3 resources, and your ships do not need to be really adjacent to the planet. They can do it from a distance as well. Now, another way to play the game is with victory points. Mothership can also be played with victory points as opposed to eliminating players. All rules stay the same except from the following changes. You have respawning ships. When any of your ship is exploded, it will respawn adjacent to your colony station at the end of your next turn. The Mothership will always respawn with 6 health points instead of the full 12. And if your colony station is destroyed, you remain in the game, but you can no longer respawn ships. What you do is you use this victory point card. It's 2-sided for each player, 1 color for each player, and you follow your victory points with this marker. You can have a 10 victory point game, a 10-point game, or a 20-point game if you want to play longer. And what you do is you get points depending on the ships that you destroy, because they always respawn, so they don't lose them permanently. So if you destroy the fighter, you get 1 VP. If you destroy the Mothership, you get 3 VPs. And if you destroy the colony station, you get 5 VPs. Also, you get, for controlling planets, 1 VP, which obviously can change hands if it's captured by another player. So the strategy here is completely different. I really like this feature of the game, because if you don't like playing player versus player, eliminating players, and someone sits around waiting for the game to end, you can really decide to go for the victory points. The strategy is entirely different. You can go and do quick attacks, because you know that by the end of the next turn your ships are going to respawn, so you don't lose them. It's not as conservative as the first mode of the game, which is a really careful planning of your attacks before you do, because if you get destroyed, you're losing valuable ships. But this is also a really nice mode. I really enjoyed it, because you can do more deeper thinking, long strategy on attacking different players and shifting the dynamic of the game, because you can easily respawn ships and be again up to them. Game offers also a solo challenge mode for solo players, which is very good addition, very welcomed for all those that like solo gaming. And if you get the Kickstarter version, you also have a random event D6 die with some extra events and some minor rules connected to that. So these more or less are the rules of the game. And now, what's my opinion? Mothership Tabletop Combat, in its core, it's a flying spaceship miniature game which has some pretty simple rules, but the beauty of the game, in my opinion, comes from 2 key factors. One is the high production value. It's a fantastic eye candy just to look. It has excellent production value, lots of stuff going on, lots of miniatures, standees for the spaceship, so they look 3D, hovering above the space sector that you're fighting in. You have a lot of versatility from the asteroid tiles, which is a fantastic addition, because no game will be the same. You can really make different board map layouts that make a completely different experience for the players. The control panels are a fantastic, innovative idea. I have not seen this before. It works really, really well. It feels like you're flying one of the main spaceships of a space movie, that you can divert energy to shields or missiles or engines, depending on the situation you're in. So you want to go away or hide or come quickly from a further distance and attack, whatever, it's up to you. It's a nice, clever mechanism. It's very simple, but it works really well. The technology tree is also good, because There's no vanilla flavor here. Every player will be different just after a couple of turns, and no second game will be the same for you because you select different traits and different abilities, not to mention the action cards. So overall, the production part of it is very good. The mechanics really work well. Simple as they are, they fit each other, so they make a really good result. And the ability to play the game with so many ways, like even the modes that you use, even if you use planetary exploration, if you go for victory point games instead of player elimination, it's a completely different approach. If you go team versus team, so you can imagine that you can have like a mini sandbox style of game that you can use it any way you want. You can have a blast with your friends. It accommodates up to the 6 players, total players, one against each other, which is a good number for space combat. The rules are very simple. You can follow through quickly, and you can just invite your friends over and have a quick blast with blowing up each other's spaceship and making fun of it along the way. So just to conclude, I was initially grabbed by the looks of this game because it looks fantastic. It has some pretty neat things going on. It looks very nice to the eye. It has an overall nice 3D feeling to it, and you get like a really driven to the theme from the production because it's excellent and of high quality. But I was surprised to find out that this is not only a good cover for a book, it's also the content is fantastic because the game plays simply but elegantly. The mechanics work very nice, and you get a really fun and blast out of it. It's a high enjoyable and satisfactory game that I would recommend to everyone that have a thing for space games and fighting against each other. So hope you enjoyed this video, and let's go and blow some ships up.